All right, welcome to day 3 of this masterclass. It's such a great pleasure to be on the third day of this masterclass, and I'm sure that you have gained a lot of value in the past 2 days. How has the past 2 days been? Put it in the comment. Let me see how it has been for you. Has it been awesome, explosive? Have you learned a lot? Let's see that in the comment section. All right. Wow, I see that a lot of people are learning a lot and have learned a lot so far. All right, so once again, welcome to day 3, and we've been talking about basically how to land high-paying remote jobs, right? So now we're going to start with a recap, and we would look at what we have to cover today. And basically, in today's session, we're going to be having 2 sessions, right? So the first session is where we go through what we have, in the slides. And then after this, we have the Q&A session, right? The Q&A session, that's where you get to ask questions if you have questions, or if there's an area where you need more clarification. And then, of course, maybe for those of you who have already sent in your questions through the form, we can take some of those questions. If we are not able to take all of the questions, of course we would send the response directly to you, or if it's something that we need to get on a call, of course we can get on a call to respond to those questions. So amazing. All right, so we have finished the introduction. We've looked at the introduction to the world of remote work. We've looked at the trends. We've looked at high demand, low supply skills. We've looked at earning potentials, how you can find the remote jobs. And then in day 2, we now started looking at how to put together your application. And I'm sure you guys learned a lot. There are a lot of things that you may not have known before. For instance, how many of you knew about job analytics before now, right? How many of you knew how to, structure your CV, optimizing your CV? How many of you knew, the process, the assessment process, AI, ATS, all of that, right? So you've learned a lot. And the beautiful thing about this is that the things that you have learned, you can even apply it. It's not just limited to finding remote jobs, right? You can even apply these things when it comes to, maybe finding an on-site job, right? You want to change jobs, and, it's something that is applicable. And you know what? The amazing thing, you can even do this for other people, and, and get paid for doing it, for them, right? So that's the value that you've gotten so far. And you will agree with me that the value you've gotten so far is, if you're supposed to quantify it in money terms, is much more than what you've paid to be a part of this class, right? All right. So now, day 3, we're going to be looking at how you can increase your chances of landing the remote job, right? The application is, is a very important aspect, right? So customizing your CV and all of that. But then beyond the customization of your CV and all of that, there's still some other things that you need to do, and you need to make sure that you nail it to the board, right? For you to increase your chances of eventually landing that remote job. Because remember, getting that remote job, there are hurdles that you have to pass through. There's a process for it, right? So everything we did yesterday, right, it gets you into the room, or it helps you to just take that step through the door. So it gets you through the door. Now, once you get through the door, right, then you now have to make that amazing impression and prove that, look, not just on paper, but then in reality, I'm the best person to hire for this job, right? So the things that we're going to be looking at very quickly in today's session is going to basically cover these things. And I'm just going to try to, as much as possible, not to spend so much time, so that we will have sufficient time for the Q&A session. All right, so the next lesson, basically, remote job interviews. Now, what you have before you on the screen right now is an overview of the recruitment process, So I think this is pretty common knowledge, right? And so it starts with the job posting and application, the company post, people apply for the jobs, and then the second stage is the CV and the resume screening, right? And that includes ATS, it includes the AI assessment and all of that. Then the third stage is the initial recruiter or HR screening. The fourth stage, you have one or more, stages of interviews. You would have an interview with the hiring manager. The fifth stage is more like, oftentimes is like a skill assessment, a take-home assessment. Now, it's not, you may have cases where what you have as number 5 on the screen may come before the HR assessment, or may even come after the HR assessment, but before the other interview stages, right? So you may have that, right? So it's not, there's no hard and fast rule, right? It may, that point you have on 5, it may be before 4, it may be before 3, or, however, right? But then the essence of the skill assessment is basically to test you on, your hands-on ability, right? So if you are a data analyst, right, you're applying for a data analyst role, you expect that they send you something, maybe some data, and they require you to use a particular software or something to analyze that data and to, make a presentation or something like that, right? So that's the kind of task that they will send you. And then the 6th stage is where you have like the final stage. Oftentimes the final stage can be with the CEO of the company, or maybe with a director, or I've even seen cases where the final stage is with team members, right? So you go through you get to the interview with the owner, the CEO, and then the final stage is an interview with the team members that you're going to be working with, right? Because they're going to assess you, or this is not always the case, but this is just in a few cases, right? So they want to see whether you are a great fit for the team. And then, of course, the final stage is where, you get the offer, they do some background checks, and then you get your onboarding and all of that. And then you get started with your job. So you can see that there is a whole process here, right? There is a whole process to this. And it's so important that you know how to deal with each stage, right? The way that you approach the interview with the HR, it will be slightly different from the way that you would approach the interview with the hiring manager or the interview with the CEO, because they are looking out for different things. Yeah, most of the way you're going to respond, right, it's pretty much the same, but then they are looking out for different things, and it's important that you understand the different things that they are looking out for. So for instance, the HR person is trying to understand whether you're a good fit for the company, right? That's what the HR person is looking out for. And then, of course, like the basic requirements for that role, right? That's what the HR person is looking out for. By the time you get to the hiring manager is trying to see whether you are a good fit for the job, not the company, but for the job. So the HR manager is going to drill down, right, into the nitty-gritties of the task to see whether you have the experience, whether you have the skills, whether you know how to solve the kind of problems that you will be faced with on the job. So the preparation process for that is different, right? This is where if you don't have the skill, or if you don't have the experience for what you're applying for, it's going to show, right? So the way you prepare for that is different. And then, of course, when you get to the level of the director or the CEO, they are more interested in whether in the long run, you're going to be a good fit, right? Are you the type of person who will grow with the company? Do you fit into the future, the strategic plans of the company, right? So your thinking when you are facing that stage of the interview needs to be different. The kind of questions that you ask, needs to be very different, right? Different from the way you approach the other stages of the interviews. Now, the importance of an interview. Why is an interview so important? Interviews are the central evaluation point in remote recruitment. Now, this is so important because, for a remote role, right, that you are being assessed for, it's unlike an on-site role where you can come to the physical office, they can see you, They may even be recruiting based on referral. So maybe somebody knows you and can vouch for you. They can come to your house, right, for an on-site job. They can come to your house if they want to do background checks to know where you're living and all of that, right? But then for a remote role, the best, the closest contact that they will have with you is a call, a meeting, an interview where you are seated just the way you can see me, where you can see the mannerism, what the person looks like, how the person communicates, the gestures, and all of that, right? And that interview may just be for 40 minutes or 30 minutes or 1 hour. But then beyond what you say, right, during the interview, beyond your verbal communication, your non-verbal communication also plays a role, right, in helping them to decide. So in terms of verbal communication, you may be great, you may be amazing, you may answer the questions the right way. But then in terms of non-verbal communication, you may not be showing the confidence. You may not be showing that you are able to get on a call, most especially if you are interviewing for a role that is client facing, right? They're looking at you and they're asking, okay, if this person faces my client, will this person be able to represent the interest of my company well? So the way you present yourself, all of those things, those are the things that they are looking out for in the interview. And that's why sometimes you get into an interview and it looks like, oh, we had a great rapport, everything went well, but then they come back to you and say, it was a difficult decision, we had to go with somebody else and all of that, So beyond the verbal things you're saying, they're also looking at the non-verbal cues, right? And so that's why interviews are so important. You see, if interviews were not as important, the company will just stick to, okay, you send in your CV, we look at your CV is good, okay, fine. We send you a test task, right? Something to do, work on, and you work on it, fine. Oh, yes, you can do the job. Oh, yeah, resume. And then they give you an offer, right? But then it doesn't work that way. They want to see you because at the end of the day, they are relating and they are working with a person. And the interview is basically the opportunity that they have to assess you off paper. Excuse me. That's the opportunity that they have to assess you off paper. So the purpose, right? When you get into an interview, the purpose is to assess role specific skills and experience, communication clarity, problem solving, decision making ability, cultural fit, values alignment, and remote work behavior, right? So those are things that they are looking at. Remote work behavior, that's also very important. So for instance, things like self-management, accountability, time management, and all of that, that's important. But then there is also another aspect to this, which I've not put here on the slides, which is like your readiness to work remotely. So, for instance, you get on a meeting and you are on a call and you're on a Zoom interview, right? And it's hanging, right? Or you're talking and it's only after 10 seconds they are hearing what you say. It shows that your internet is a problem with your internet, right? And that will get them thinking that, okay, so if we hire this guy, it means we're going to be having these issues, or you're having an interview and they take lights, right? And then everywhere just goes pitch dark, right? It's and you're not able to kind of like, of course, because they understand that, yeah, from this part of the world, we often have that, those challenges. But then, it goes pitch dark and then they have to kind of like wait and your internet is cut off and they have to kind of like wait for like another 5 minutes. They are waiting for you to, maybe put on or something, so yeah, we have power failure. Even when I'm working, sometimes I have power failure and stuff like that. But then I have, a backup source, an inverter that I can quickly switch on and, I'm back. But, when I know that I'm going for an interview, right, I make sure that, there is no power outage. I make sure that it's either I go to a workstation where I can be sure that they're going to have like the power is going to be there uninterrupted, or I make sure that I'm on gen, or I make sure that I'm on inverter throughout that interview. So all of those things come to play. You see, common interview formats for remote roles: you have behavioral interviews, you have technical or case-based interviews, and then there's also panel or stakeholder interviews. Now I'll just touch a bit on this. Behavioral interviews, it's more about your experience. So for instance, you get into a behavioral interview and they say, tell me about a time when you managed a large team, right? Now they ask you that question and you have to draw from your experience in order to answer that question. So there is a way that you structure your answer to that question. There is a way that you go about responding to that question, or they can ask you a technical based question, right? It's more about like, what you've handled. So for instance, you are on interview for a role that has to do with maybe that has to do with cybersecurity, for instance. So they go into the terminologies, the technical things, right? That's technical or case based, or they give you a case study, right? And then they ask you, okay, maybe they give you like 10 minutes or so to go through it, and then they ask you, okay, so how do you handle this? Or they may read out the situation, they tell you, they give you like a breakdown with context about the situation, and then they ask you, how do you go about solving this challenge, or how do you go about dealing with this problem? And a lot of times the technical or case-based interviews will come when you face the hiring manager, right? So that's where that comes in. And then there is also the panel or the stakeholder interview, where you have several people on the interview, and they are basically listening to you and assessing you, and questions can come from different angles, right? So interviews often determine who moves forward, even when candidates have similar CVs. So that's why interviews are so important. So you may be applying for a role, two people have the same CV on paper. At the end of the day, the person that they go with will now depend on who performs better in the interview. Now, remember what I've been saying in day one and day two. I said that it's not always the person who is best. It's not always the best candidate that gets the job, but the person who is able to best show that he can. And this is where, that reality begins to set in, because you look at two CVs, one CV, maybe the CV of candidate A may be way better than CV of candidate B, but then they get into an interview because candidate B also meets the minimum requirements, right? And then in the interview, that's where the boys are separated from the men. And eventually, if candidate A, despite having a fantastic CV, fantastic experience on paper, if he is not able to present himself or herself, right, in a way that convinces them in the interview, I'm sorry, candidate A is not going to get that job. At the end of the day, if candidate B is able to better present himself, is more eloquent, is able to better answer the questions in a way that shows that he has the experience for the job, candidate B will definitely get the job. That's why interviews are so important. You see, for many people, right, the issue is not even the CV, because right now, with AI, it's possible for you to use AI to craft your CV, and it will just pass the minimum standards for screening, right? And that gets you through, right? But then for some people, the challenge is the interviews. Being able to get into that interview to build that confidence. That's why interviews are so important. Now, why interview performance matters to remote jobs. Strong interview performance signals that you can communicate effectively without face-to-face contact. It shows that you can work independently with minimal supervision. You can demonstrate that through an interview. It shows your ability to collaborate across, time zones, cultures, and things like that. You are able to, when you get into an interview, most especially when you are working remotely in a multi-cultural or a multinational team, people from different cultures, people from different countries, continents, and all of that, right? Your ability to be able to communicate on that interview shows whether you will be able to communicate effectively if hired for that role. So for instance, you get into an interview and they're being interviewed by a Caucasian, right? And that's like a white person, and everything the person says, you're saying, sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat that again? I mean, it shows that you don't have what it takes to be able to collaborate and communicate, across, with people from different parts of the world, and that can work against you, right? So strong performance also shows that you can represent the company professionally in virtual settings. Key takeaways for learning: a good CV, it gets you invited to an interview. A strong interview is what gets you hired. So interview success is a skill that can be learned. You can learn interview success. It's something that can be practiced. It's something that can be mastered, right? You can master it. You can be a master of interviews. Usually, I've seen some people say, oh, they go into interviews and they are not confident, they are jittery and all of that, right? It's simply because you've not practiced well enough, and you do not know the right techniques to use in order to address those questions. The moment you are able to the moment you know the right techniques to use, how to answer questions, right? There are frameworks that you can use to respond to interview questions. The moment you know how to use these frameworks, and you see, the beautiful thing about frameworks is that when you use a framework, you don't need so many frameworks, maybe one or two frameworks, right? The beautiful thing about those frameworks is that once you master the use of a framework, you can use that framework to respond to any interview question that comes your way in a way that will make you confident, because a lot of times people get anxious and people get jittery in interviews because they don't they have not developed the eloquence to be able to communicate in such a situation in a way that they can communicate clearly, right? While you are saying one thing, you already know the number two, number three, number four thing that you are going to say. So there is that eloquence. And when you use frameworks, it helps you to master the act of, responding to interview questions in a way that is smooth, in a way that most importantly shows that you are able to get the job done. You see, so basically what we're looking at in this lesson is basically to help us to basically perform more confidently, strategically at every interview stage. Now, let's look at the common reasons for failure in remote job interviews. What are the common reasons why people fail in remote job interviews? Now, you see, here are some critical points. Interviews remain the biggest failure point, right? For many people across hiring domains, 43% of candidates fail during the interview stage, right? Not during the screening, during the interview stage, more than mistakes in resumes, follow-ups, and cover letters, and all of that, right? So a lot of people, right, they are able to get through the application stage and then they fail at the interview stage. Interviews remain the biggest failure point. High ghosting rates add frustration. It adds frustration. Over 60% of job seekers report being ghosted after interviews, underscoring how many applications and interviews do not lead to offer or closure. When we say ghosted, it means you go for an interview and you don't just hear anything. They don't just get back to you, right? There are so many cases like that. They don't even have the courtesy, because once they're done with that interview, they just know that, oh yeah, this person is not the right fit, and they quickly move on to the next person, right? So now, what are the common reasons for failure in remote job interviews? Number one is lack of preparation and company knowledge, a lack of knowledge about the company and a lack of preparation on the side of the interviewer. That's one of the common reasons for interview failure. Number two is poor communication and engagement. Failing to ask thoughtful questions can be very, very, very costly. 38% of candidates lose out due to not asking good questions. You are not able to communicate and show that because every interview will end with the question that, do you have any questions for us? And that is for some people, it's sometimes it's like a test of how intelligent you are, right? Because if you are so intelligent, you will ask intelligent questions. If you are so interested in that job, right, the quality of questions that you ask will show, right? If you are ready to get on the job and to get running, the quality of questions that you ask will show. And that, that section is the opportunity for you to build engagement, right, with the person that is interviewing you, right? Another is inadequate professional presentation. Even for remote interviews, inappropriate dressing or informal behavior, using informal language, that can lead to rejection. These are some of the common issues. Another is technical and communication barrier. So you are on an interview and your internet is not working properly, or you are not able to hear the person is saying something, and then every time you have to ask them to repeat what they said, all of that, right? Weak non-verbal communication. We've talked about this, right? Over reliance on technical skills only, right? So you get into an interview and you are just all about the technical side. while that is important, right? They want to know that, oh, this guy is a great guy to work with. They want to see the soft skills, right? They also want to see that. And if you get into an interview and, maybe you've prepared, you've learned all the softwares, that they want to know how to use, and you're just that, they just look at you as a nerd, right? And not somebody who they can relate with, right? So these are some of the common reasons. Now, let's look at how do you pass remote job interviews? How do you excel? How do you succeed in remote job interview? Here are a couple of tips. Be prepared beyond the CV. And what does that mean? Research the company, the role, the interviews, understand how the role works remotely, the time zones, the things, the communication tools, right? These are things beyond the CV or beyond your CV that you submitted that you can, you should arm yourself with. These are knowledge, information that you should arm yourself with to prepare for the interview. Prepare examples using structured method, right? Examples of the kind of questions that you will possibly be asked, and use that to practice. Another is communicating with clarity and confidence, ensuring that you build that confidence. And how can you build that confidence? You build that confidence through practice, right? You build that confidence through practice. You don't get into an interview and then it's when you are on the interview that you are trying to practice. No, when you go to war or when you go for a battle, you don't prepare for the battle on the battlefield. Before you get into the battlefield, you are prepared. If you're going for a sporting tournament, you spend a lot of time. You see, athletes, most especially an athlete who is preparing for a 100-meter race, he will spend days and weeks and months preparing for a race that is just going to take less than 10 seconds or less than 15 seconds to run. But then it takes 10, 15 seconds to complete that 100 meters dash. But then the hours that would have gone in preparing for that, man, when you think about that, think about that in the context of interview. So you need to prepare. You need to prepare yourself. Practice. Master the virtual environment. Learn how to present yourself, when you are doing a remote job interview, you're online, right? Don't be the type of person who gets into a video call and an interview and then you switch off your camera because you're shy, right? Even you should have your camera on, right? And practice that. You can practice that, record it, watch your recorded self presenting, get feedback, try to improve. That's how you master the virtual environment, right? Another thing is demonstrate remote work skills explicitly. You try to fit in experiences working remotely. You don't have to have had experience, like, let's say, most especially, let's say you're going for an entry level role, right? You don't have to, your remote work experience doesn't have to necessarily be like a formal work arrangement, right? So if you've had cases where you were working on a task with people and you have to do it remotely, maybe you used Google Chats, or maybe you guys had to communicate with WhatsApp, online calls, and all of that to get a task done, right? Try to bring in things from that experience. You don't need to make it plain and obvious that, oh, we were communicating on WhatsApp group and stuff like that, because in a remote work setting, the tools you're using is way more than that, right? But then you can draw on some experiences there, and there is a way that you can present it to give the impression that, oh yes, you have experience working remotely, and as you answer questions, you can drop in those things. So for instance, from time to time, when I get into a situation where maybe I'm being interviewed and stuff like that for a role, some of the things I try to drop is the fact that, I've had experience working with people from different time zones. I have colleagues who are in India, who are in Pakistan, who are like 3, 4, 5, hours ahead of me. How I manage that time differential to make sure that, we're able to work together and still get things done. So by the time I'm drawing on those experiences, right? I'm not necessarily giving the details about that, but I'm just picking out, maybe I can use it as an example, for instance, right? It gives the impression to the interviewer that, hey, yeah, this person, he's accustomed to, the intricacies that remote work, entails, right? And you can survive in this environment. Also show impact, not just experience. Don't just say that, oh, I managed sales, I managed, administrative tasks. Talk about your achievements. Talk about the growth. Use quantifiable metrics, right? These are things that you need to do. These are things that will help you to succeed. Also, close the interview professionally. Let it be clear at the end of the interview that, yes, you are genuinely interested in that role, right? You're genuinely interested in that role. Clarify the expectations when you're given the opportunity to ask questions, ask thought provoking questions. Now, some of these tips that I've shared, right? These are just like the tip of the iceberg, right? There are more things, frameworks on how you can use to respond to interview questions, how you can, put together scenarios that you can use and things like that. So there's so much more. And when you look at this image, right, you see this is like an iceberg. And for an iceberg, what you see at the top, right, you may see an iceberg, and at the top maybe it looks like a rock, or you may even see an iceberg that maybe looks big, right? But then the thing with an iceberg is that what is beneath is far, 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 far bigger than what you can see, right? So, and the same thing applies to, what we've talked about so far when it comes to interviews. Everything I've shared, all the tips that I've shared, these are just a tip of the iceberg, right? There's so much more, most especially when it comes to, like I said, the frameworks and things like that, how to respond, how you can prepare yourself effectively, some techniques that you can use to build confidence. These are things, that are, beneath the surface, right? That you also need to master. You see, interview success, it requires depth, it requires structure, it requires practice. Time constraints makes it impossible to just break down everything, because of the time constraint we have. If I'm going to talk about like interviews, we have like sessions that we've done on interviews, and to give you like a detail, sometimes maybe like 4-5 hours, of helping people, showing you all the tips, techniques, how to respond to different kind of questions and all of that, right? So there is so much more to it than I can cover in this masterclass. But then what I've shared with you so far, the goal is to just help you move from just knowing tips to helping you to be in a position where you can be better prepared. Now we've looked at some of the common reasons why people go into interviews and fail, and maybe you've gone into interviews, you've had interviews, and you thought you did well, but then you get rejected, or you just didn't scale through, and then you're wondering, okay, why, right? And from a few of the things that we've looked at, I'm sure you would have picked out, a couple of things and say, oh, okay, I see, maybe I was wrong, maybe in this particular scenario, oh, I could have done this better, right? So what you have is just a tip. Now, what my recommendation, we have a course, right? Like a detailed course where we, basically go into the depths of interview preparation, and that course is how to ace your remote job interview. It's a step-by-step preparation system for remote job interviews, and the things that you're going to learn in this course, you can also apply it to any other interview that you have. This is what will help you to fix issues and common reasons for failure, such as poor communication, unstructured answers, nervousness, in interviews, anxiety, and basically, just having that clarity, right? Part of the things that you're going to be learning, right, in this course, that if you decide, to take this course, is, how to predict interview questions from job ads and your CV, basically, how you can answer confidently using the STAR framework and the SEAT frameworks, right? If you can master these two frameworks, I'm telling you, you will go into any interview with your shoulder held high, right? You will go into interviews with confidence, right? Communication, right? You're going to learn how you can communicate your value clearly, even when you are under pressure, how you can handle behavioral and remote specific interview questions. These are the things that this course covers. So if you would want to have a better mastery of interviews, I would recommend that you go for this course. It's 30% off, so you can go for this course. So this is my first recommendation. And if you feel like you already have everything, right? You already have the knowledge, but you feel like, okay, maybe you need more practice, right? Then I would recommend that you go for our interview coaching service. This is going to be like a one-on-one session where I'm going to sit down with you and, we have like a mock interview. This would be very helpful, most especially if you have an interview coming up. We can have a one-on-one mock session. We do an interview, we're going to record it, and then after we've recorded that interview, you get a feedback. We map out, okay, these are the areas of strength you have, these are the areas of weakness. You can work on that, and then if you want another practice, you can book another session for us to have, another interview session, and then we'll see how well you're doing. So, but if you're going for the interview coaching service, I would advise that you make sure that you have a proper understanding, right, of everything, the frameworks and all of that. So if you want to go for the interview coaching service and you still feel like, okay, you need to understand, the depth and all of that, I recommend that you get the course first and then you go for the interview coaching service. But then if you feel like, oh, you already know it and maybe what you just need is more practice, then you can come for the interview coaching service straight up. But the thing is that if you go for the course, right, you take that course, you may not need as much interview coaching. Maybe you just need maybe 1 or 2 sessions and you're fine, right? But then without that course, and you just want to go for the interview coaching service, then you would basically need maybe 3, 4, 5 sessions, which maybe, we may turn out to be, more expensive compared to when you are, you take the course and then you have maybe 1 or 2 sessions, of the interview coaching, right? And then, even though there is a discount of 30%, we can give you an additional 20% discount. Having been part of this masterclass, we can give you an additional 20% discount, and you can just reach out to us on WhatsApp. I'm sure many of you are already on the WhatsApp group, so just reach out to me on WhatsApp, or the admin, any of the admin on WhatsApp, of course, and then and talk to us about this, and of course we will be ready, of course, to help you, give you access to the course once to make the payment, or we can give you more details about the course or the interview coaching service. Now, let's go into the push and the pull strategy. I talked a bit about this, the push and the pull strategy, yesterday. Now, this push and pull strategy is a simple framework, right? The big idea here is that opportunities comes from 2 directions: what you choose or what you attract, right? So you can either see an opportunity and then you go for that opportunity, you chase after that opportunity, or you could be the person who, you just position yourself, right? And then the opportunities gravitate to you. Now, the pull strategy is those who are out there chasing after the opportunities, right? You're actively reaching out for opportunities. But then the pull strategy are those who they position themselves properly, and then the remote job opportunities are coming to them. For the push strategy, they apply. But then you could also use the pull strategy where you are well positioned in such a way that people have, vacancies, recruiters, they come looking for you. Why? Because you are well positioned. Now, when we talk about the push and the pull strategy, the goal is not to stop applying, right? It is to stop depending on the applications alone. We've learned about CV and all of that, how to put together your CV, right? And you should do that, because even if you are using the pull strategy where people are coming to you, right, eventually they will still ask for your CV, right? So that's everything you've learned with the CV creation, optimization, and all of that is still so important if you are using the pull strategy. It's just that with the pull strategy, you are not relying solely on your applications, right? You are adopting a positioning system where people who are looking to hire remotely, right, for a particular role, they can easily find you and they can bring those opportunities to you. Now, the push strategy in remote job search is basically outbound. You are actively going after opportunities. You are actively looking for roles. You are constantly sending out job filling out applications and all of that, right? And the strength of the push strategy is that it's controllable because it is the job that you apply for, right? That you find you took your time to apply for, that eventually, you get invited for an interview and all of that. So you can control, you kind of like have a control, right, over the outcome because you already saw the opportunity, you know where you are heading, and then you are kind of like heading in that direction. So it works well for urgent job search. It's good for early career people, maybe you're at entry level and role specific targeting and all of that, right? But then the limitation with the push strategy is that it is highly competitive, right? We talked about we talked about applications when we looked at job boards and things like that, right? And I remember I gave you an instance where I applied for a role on LinkedIn that was posted just about 2 or 3 hours. I applied just after 2 or 3 hours of that job being posted. And I came back after like a few hours and it was closed because they posted the job. They had over hundreds of people that applied within a few hours. And because they didn't want to deal with the headache of screening and looking at so many CVs and all of that, they immediately shut down the application, right? That's the application process for that, right? So it is highly competitive, right? You are one of hundreds and thousands of applicants that are applying for that role, and oftentimes, there is low responses and all of that. But of course, with everything that you've learned, right, with the CV optimization and everything that you've learned, of course, you can increase your chances of getting, good responses. That's the thing with the push strategy. But then with the pull strategy, you are basically, it's more inbound. You are attracting opportunities through positioning, right? You're attracting opportunities through positioning. And how does the pull strategy work, right? It works by, through having an optimized LinkedIn profile that shows clear value. It shows your value proposition. It shows what you are able to do. It works through a strong portfolio that demonstrates real skills, that demonstrates real ability, real competence, right? It works through consistent and valuable content that, makes people, keeps you in the face of those that matter, right? These are some of the things that you do when it comes to the pull strategy. And I'm going to be showing you a bit about this, right? And then it gives you a clear personal positioning around your expertise. For the pull strategy, it's all about establishing yourself as an authority, establishing yourself as a brand, right? There's this course I recently took, right? And it's a course on marketing, sales and marketing and all of that. And, I was taking that because I was considering going, I've been considering going into like a different line in the remote work career world. I've been in project management for quite some time, project management, business analysis, products and all of that, right? And I was looking at, okay, maybe looking into the area of sales and all of that. Sales, not digital marketing, but like sales, right? And I took this course, and the guy positions himself as the Einstein of marketing. So when you go to his X profile, right, you see it. When you go to his LinkedIn profile, you see the Einstein of marketing. And when him positioning himself that way, right, it's not just by word or by mouth, right? The content he puts out there, the engagement that he has, right? People are seeing his content, people are engaging with him. And when you see the guy's content and, you're like, who is this guy? And then you go, you check, you may not remember the guy's name, but you remember Einstein of marketing. So for someone like that, you are pushing yourself out, putting out valuable content there. And, all of a sudden, somebody who is a CEO or, of a big company or something, right, is looking for a talent in that area, he'll remember, oh, there is one Einstein of marketing that I saw. And then automatically they'll start looking for the guy. That's how the pull strategy works. Now, the benefits of the pull strategy is that hiring managers, they find you, they come looking for you. They are the ones that come looking for you. You have fewer interviews because when they come looking for you, that way. They do their vetting. They vet you, they look at you, they look at all the things that you have there, what's on your profile, they look at, your portfolio, what you've done, and all of that before they now approach you. So by the time they are approaching you with like some level of they're approaching you with some level of how do I put this now? They are not kind of their barriers are not high. They are not trying to like figure out, okay, who is this guy? Can this guy do the job? They've already built some confidence on their own, right? And so when you get into the interview process, you find out that maybe it's fewer. For some cases, it's even the CEO that would find you, or the director or the owner of the company that would find you and approach you. And that way, I mean, if it's the CEO that is approaching you, it cuts short. Once you're able to convince the CEO, who else do you want to convince? Is it the HR person that the CEO hired, or is it the staff, or the manager in the CEO's company that he hired? I mean, once the CEO says, "Oh yes, fine," the reason why for the push strategy, right, the interview can be that rigorous is because the CEO will say, "Oh, look, before anybody comes to me, make sure you guys have taken this person through this process, and you are sure that this person can do the job before he comes to me, right? And then I make the final decision." But then when the person that makes the final decision is the one that is now looking for you, I mean, come on, that's a whole different ball game. So the pull strategy basically turns you from a job seeker into a visible professional. Now, let's look at the power of LinkedIn attracting remote opportunities, right? Through LinkedIn as well as your portfolio. Now, what is LinkedIn? I don't need to introduce LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn has become, the only thing I need to say here is that, you see, LinkedIn has become not just a platform where you put your CV out there, right? Like your experiences and things like that. But then it has become a very, very important source for people who are looking for talents, right? Many of us put we put together our LinkedIn profile and we just put it there as maybe something that recruiters would reference, right? Or we put it there as, a way to just kind of like keep up the way you use Facebook, right? But then the value of LinkedIn is so much more than that, because now we have situations where when decision makers, hiring managers are looking to make a quick hire, or are looking to know whether, to find a talent that can fit a particular role or that can do a particular job, one of the first places that they go to is LinkedIn. That's one of the first places that they go to. Before, in time past, right, most especially the companies that can afford it, they will go to HR companies or sourcing companies, right? And then those sourcing companies or HR companies will bill them, huge bill and all of that. But now, LinkedIn has solutions, Recruiter Lite, and some other packages which I have also used for my organization that allows them to be able to search for talents, right? And so if your LinkedIn profile is not optimized for the role, for the area that you are positioning yourself in, so let's say you are positioning yourself as a business analyst, or let's say you are positioning yourself as a virtual assistant, if your LinkedIn profile is not optimized in such a way that showcases you, that brings you up, it's like a search engine, right? On Google, when you type in something, the first few options that you see would be, or the options or the results you see on page one are often those that they've optimized their web page, right? So that's the same way LinkedIn works, and that's the value of optimizing your LinkedIn profile, right? So you have optimized your LinkedIn profile such that once they search for virtual assistant and they put the location maybe anywhere, or they put Africa, or because remember, these companies, they're looking to hire from this part of the world as well, right? Or they put a location that you fall under, immediately your profile pops up, and then the recruiter can have a look at your profile, right? So, and that's one side. Then there is the other side of also creating and sharing valuable content, because most of these CEOs of these companies, they are also on LinkedIn. They are even they engage better because they find LinkedIn to be a place where they can get content that kind of like feeds their mind with what's going on and things like that. So you can build your network on LinkedIn in such a way that the people on your the people that you are connected to are the people that matter, right? Instead of establishing, why are you sending connection requests to your friends and to your classmates? And I'm not saying that that is not important, right? Of course, it's good to maintain connections with them and stuff like that, but you shouldn't treat LinkedIn like you treat Facebook. What stops you from finding out or doing your research about the kind of the kind of companies you want to work with remotely, finding that company on LinkedIn, finding the people who are, employees, of those companies, the CEOs, and connecting with them, right? You establish connection with them, and things like that. When you share valuable content, they see it, they like your content, you have made an impression, you've impressed yourself, in their mind, right? So LinkedIn optimization is so important. LinkedIn optimization is all about making your profile work for you. It's all about positioning your profile in such a way that it makes it easy for decision makers, for hiring managers, for recruiters, for people that are looking for your expertise, for them to be able to find you. And when it comes to optimizing your LinkedIn, right, there is a way to go about it. You have to understand the different sections of LinkedIn and how to optimize the different sections. That section of your profile heading, your summary about you, how to structure an elevation pitch for yourself, and your experiences. There is a way to go about it in order to optimize your LinkedIn. Optimization is about visibility and relevance so that your profile is able to work for you. Now, how LinkedIn optimization attracts global remote opportunities. Now, optimized profiles, they get noticed. They get you noticed. In fact, when you optimize your profile, LinkedIn will help to push you up such that the algorithm works in a way that it makes you more visible when your profile is optimized. LinkedIn, it helps you to pull opportunities. And you see, the key benefits for remote job seekers is that it gives you, as a remote job seeker, it gives you visibility to global recruiters. It gives you higher chances of inbound interview requests, where it's not you applying. People just approach you, reach out to you, and then they are, inviting you for an interview, right? They want to have a conversation with you. They've not even asked for your CV. They're saying, okay, let's have a conversation, right, with you, right? And also, LinkedIn also provides a platform where you can share valuable content, and all of that is part of optimization. You see, there is the kind of content that you will share on LinkedIn, right, that will get people. Sometimes some of you post some things and nobody is liking, nobody is following, nobody is commenting, because you don't know how to engage on LinkedIn in a way that is optimized, right? There is a way that you put content out there. There's a way you structure your content on LinkedIn that it will show that content to people outside of your network. So the way LinkedIn works, or the way the algorithm works, is that if what you put there is good quality, the algorithm of the platform will give you more visibility. Because for LinkedIn, of course, they want more and more people coming to the platform. And what will make more and more people to come to the platform is when they are able to come to the platform and find valuable content. So when the algorithm sees that the content you put there on LinkedIn, your profile is optimized and all of that, right, the algorithm will work in your favor to give you more visibility. With optimization, LinkedIn turns your profile into a magnet of remote work opportunities. Let's talk about showcasing your skills with a portfolio. So what a portfolio is and why it matters. What is a portfolio? A portfolio is it's a display of your work, your competence, what you've done. It's like a gallery. It's like a portfolio is like an art gallery. When you want to buy paintings, right? You go to an art gallery and you see what an artist has done, right? So a portfolio is like a gallery of what you have done and what you are capable of doing, right? That's what a portfolio is all about. It goes beyond the CV. On a CV is like talk, right? You can talk, but sabi do. A portfolio shows that and it's not only talk as I be talk. I can also do. I'm a doer. So a portfolio showcases what you've done. So having a portfolio is so important. Now, a good portfolio complements your LinkedIn profile. Now, LinkedIn gets recruiters to you. Your portfolio is what kills every doubt. So when a recruiter is looking for somebody who can do, let's say, a business analyst, for instance, and then they come to your LinkedIn profile and see that it's optimized by virtue of your optimization, of course, they're able to come to your LinkedIn profile, they find you, they come there, right? They're going through your profile and they're trying to like, okay, so can this guy really do this job? And then all of a sudden, they see a link to your portfolio, or they see contents that you've posted with a link to your portfolio. Then they go to your portfolio, and then when they're able to see that, oh, this guy has done things, they're able to see screenshots of things you've done, several things you've worked on, several projects you've worked on. That builds their confidence. That helps them to know that, yes, this guy is ready, this guy can do this job. That is what will give them the confidence to approach you and say, hey, let's have a call. I'm going to show you some examples, because this is not only talk. I will show you talk and do. I will show you how this has worked for me, right? Now, portfolio content can include project case studies, things you've worked on, work samples, links to published, maybe things you've done, dashboards and things like that, things you've worked on, right? And you see, a portfolio is the interesting thing about the portfolio is that even if you don't have experience, so for instance, there are some areas, there are some areas that I'm trying to build competence in. For instance, when I started doing business analysis, what I did is I first of all took a course, right, in business analysis. And then in that course, we worked on so many like assignments, practice, and things like that. And what did I do? I took those things I worked on, screenshots. We created dashboards on Power BI, Excel, and I was taking the screenshots. I was putting them on my portfolio, and then I was also sharing them on my LinkedIn with a link to my portfolio. So people were seeing it, and that was leading people to my portfolio. So you can also do the same, right? We talked about, I think it was in day one, where we were saying the fact that a lot of remote jobs would require, even the entry level, right, will require some amount of experience, right? These are the things that you can do to show that, yeah, even though I've not worked in an organization where I spent 3 years doing business analysis, for instance, I have business analysis experience. By the time you see, you don't have to go to an expensive, if you don't have the money for, an expensive boot camp, or, some of these training companies and all of that, you can go to Udemy, 15K subscription a month. I think thereabout, right? With 15K subscription, you can do several courses, right? So the knowledge, you can take those courses, follow what they're doing, practice it yourself, and then take screenshots and put those screenshots on your portfolio. The power of before we go into demonstration, the power of a portfolio gives you credibility and visibility. Portfolio, it improves trust and confidence. Portfolio basically helps to position you for remote work, because remote roles require proof of self-direction, a proof of real output. Remember that these people, they cannot have physical contact with you. Even if you have references, rarely would they even check up with your references, because they don't even know how relevant those references are, right? So with a portfolio, you can kill every doubt that they have. Portfolio will basically help you to boost your personal brand. Now, let's look at a demonstration of what an amazing portfolio looks like. All right, so now we've looked at LinkedIn optimization, we've looked at portfolio, and you see, there's so many things about how to optimize the LinkedIn, how to create that amazing portfolio you've seen that I cannot cover, in this session. But then we have a course that is called the Global Remote Job Magnet System. The Global Remote Job Magnet System. And in this course, right, everything that you need to know about optimization of your LinkedIn, how to build that portfolio you just saw, everything is covered in that course, right? Trust me, this is one course that's, if you want to build your career, you want to give yourself more visibility, most especially for those of you who are considering the path of freelancing, right? This is one course that, I go into details of everything that I've talked about in LinkedIn optimization and portfolio creation. I go into details in this course. And for those of you that may be wondering, okay, how has this worked for me? Here are some screenshots. Now, these are screenshots I took from my LinkedIn profile. Now, these are people who, by virtue of my optimization, the optimization of my profile, approached me with opportunities, right? You can see them that they just approached me. I did not, I didn't go looking out, I didn't go applying. These are people who are recruiters. Two of them are like CEOs of their own companies. One of them is a recruiter for like a very big development agency in the US that got a contract, like some kind of like grant or something to do a project, a very big project. It's a USAID project in Nigeria, and they were looking for project managers, and they didn't post the job. They just went on LinkedIn, and because my LinkedIn profile was optimized, they came approaching me with these opportunities. You can see them there. I don't need to go into the details, but you see, these are evidence of people, who have approached me by virtue of what I did with my LinkedIn profile to optimize my LinkedIn profile. Everything that is taught in this course, the Global Remote Job Magnet System, these are things that I do. And these are evidence, these are results, right? Of course, I cannot put personal names and things like that but I'm putting this here to show you that this actually works. You can see this second screenshot, this is, like not so long ago. This was in 2024. So I've been doing this, right? It's not, it's not knowledge that I just discovered now. And, I've been doing this and it works, right? So I'd like to encourage you to get this course. Just reach out to us on WhatsApp. Tell us, okay, you are interested in the Global Remote Job Magnet System. We're going to be posting a flyer for that in the WhatsApp group. So if you're interested, you can just DM and then we can give you more details about this. Now, if you don't want to go through the process of doing that whole optimization, portfolio creation, and everything that we've taught so far in day 1, day 2, you don't want to go through that stress. You would rather just have somebody do it for you, right? Because we understand that some of you may be like very busy career professionals and you don't have that time to spend with optimization and all of those things. And you just want somebody to do this for you. That's perfectly fine. We have the career booster service, and basically what this career booster service is like a more or less like a package that you can get, or you can subscribe for, and you can pay for, and we just do these things for you. Now, for the career booster service, basically there are 4 different packages. There's the 1-month package where we would create a standard CV for you. We would optimize your CV, and then we will apply for at least 8 remote jobs that fit your profile, right? So let's say you're a business analyst, or you are an engineer, software engineer, or you are looking to get maybe virtual assistant. Basically, we will optimize your CV for that role that you want to aim at, and then we will look for at least 8 remote roles, and we will apply for those remote roles for you. Now, there's some for this application, there's some rules that when you apply, it will require you to kind of like create an account and all of that, because of confidentiality, and so, of course we'll work with you, but then it may require to log into email and all of that. So, but even if it requires that, we will try to kind of like have all the questions that you will possibly be asked, and we'll prepare the responses, and we can also send that to you if, confidentiality is an issue, and then you can just use that to submit the application yourself. Or if you prefer that we do it, we can do that for you. Then there is the 3-month package where not only do we do the CV creation optimization for you, and also source remote jobs for you. You see, again, these are things that you can do yourself because we've taught you everything, but for this basically are for those who maybe they don't have the time to do that, and they would prefer to have somebody work with them to help them to get this done, right? If that's you, then this is an amazing package for you. So the 3-month package. So over the course of 3 months, we'll be doing this. Over the course of 3 months, we'll apply for at least 24 remote job roles that fit your area. For each of these roles, we'll be optimizing your CV for each of these roles. And in addition to that, we will help you to build your portfolio. We'll help you to optimize that portfolio, create content for your portfolio. Will help you to optimize your LinkedIn, will help you to do your LinkedIn profile management, create engaging content that you can share that will build engagement on your profile. And then we'll also do a remote, you also get coached, right? You also get access to a remote career coaching where we'll work with you basically to because for some people you may need to get into the world of remote work. You may need to reposition yourself. Maybe there is a new area you may need to look into, right? So we'll sit down with you. So for some of you, maybe like the skills you've had has been maybe administration, right? And that basically fits more into the virtual assistant role. But then by the time you look at virtual assistant role and the income, the potential, what you may potentially earn and how competitive that area is, there may be other options for you to build competence in and aim at. So maybe, high ticket sales, right? Maybe that's another very high valuable, remote skills. Maybe that may work better for you. Maybe cybersecurity may work better for you. So through this coaching, we'll help you to identify what works best for you. And then, of course, we'll walk you through the process of maybe going for that training or, taking a course that can build your competence in that area. We'll follow up with you to build your portfolio, to showcase your skills in that area, to apply for remote roles in that area and all of that, right? So that's what we'll do for you for a space of 3 months. And then we have the 6 months package where we go for a space of 6 months working with you. And then, of course, we have the 12 months package where we can go for a whole year. We're working with you on all this. Again, if you want more details on this, please reach out to us. Our WhatsApp number is there. You can reach out to us on the group chat. Just look for the admin. And of course, we will be able to give you more details about the Career Booster service. Now, this brings me to the end, and it brings us to the end of day 3. I trust that this has been an amazing learning journey for you. And honestly, I look forward to you not just going through these live sessions, but also putting to practice the things that you have learned. You see, if you look at the value that you've gotten from this live session so far, you will agree with me, right? That I've given you more value than what you paid for, right? And come to think of it, people don't usually do that. People rarely do that. But I've chosen to do that because I am more interested in seeing you land those high-paying remote job opportunities. And I was willing to bring down. The only reason why I even charge that amount is because I realized, or I know for a fact, that when you give people free things, they don't value it, right? And I want you, as much as I wanted to make this affordable, I want it to be something that costs you a bit so that you can place value on it and not just audit, but also put to practice these things, because your success is also my success. So right now, this brings us to the end of this live session, and then we're going to go into the live Q&A session. So just go to the group chat. The link to the live Q&A session is going to be dropped on the group chat, and I'll see you in the live Q&A session. Cheers.